At Maplewood Organics in Highgate, the cattle are kind of a coincidence. Almost a second thought. Almost.
By building the soil and making the soil the best that I possibly can, and increasing fertility and energy in the grass, the beef is going to be second to none. That's just what happens. So I don't focus on that.
Noel's focus is the soil. He's built his 300-acre farm from the ground up, using a practice called holistic management planned grazing. A mouthful to say, but in reality, it's a down-to-earth process that emphasizes the bond between land and air.
You want that grass to regrow to its full potential, to get the most energy out of that grass as possible. So the more roots you can grow, the more cycling of carbon and nutrients you have within that soil. And that's what my job is to basically collect carbon from the atmosphere, put it in the soil, and also add nutrients and make that biological system of the soil cycle the nutrients quicker. That's my whole job, is to just aid Mother Nature and make things expand on themselves.
Noel grew up on this farm. He moved away in 1999, but returned to Vermont to farm and raise a family in 2003. If that makes him sound like a back-to-the-land earthy type, think again.
I'm pretty much polar opposite of the hippie. I'm trained as an auto mechanic. I was an IndyCar mechanic. I mean, I was all into the gearhead stuff. Holistic to me means whole thinking. I mean, I look at this farm and look at all the pieces working together with nature, and then I look at nature for some lessons sometimes. It's a lot easier to follow nature instead of working against it all the time. That's holistic. Everything is synergistic, everything works together. So if you can see that and then just add in where you can help that, it'll actually grow itself instead of having to work as hard as possible to try to make something happen that you want to happen.
It's perhaps his training as a mechanic that drives Noel to always gauge how well his farm is performing.
I want to keep my soil here, and I want to increase the fertility and the potential of my soil and grasses. I want to get that soil so it's basically, if you cut into it, it looks like chocolate cake. So you know it's nutrient dense and it's providing the highest density of nutrients for the cattle, which in turn will provide high nutrients for the people that eat the beef. I call it grass explosion. I mean, you graze off and then 20 days later you can have just as much grass as you had 20 days ago when they ate it off. I want to increase the amount of animals this land will support, which also goes to my bottom line, but also increases the performance and water quality of the land itself.
One way that Noel has found to ratchet up his performance is to constantly move his cattle. 6 times a day, if necessary.
I move my animals more in the afternoon because sugars are higher in the grass. As the sun has been shining on that grass, it's building that sugar in the grass, which will put more weight gain on my cattle. So I'll generally move 1 or 2 times in the morning and then 4 to 5 times in the afternoon just to take advantage of that grass. And the more often you move those cattle, the more they're going to eat, so the more they're going to gain. It just add all these little things up and you get increase in performance that's pretty big in the end.
Moving cattle once can be a time-consuming activity, let alone half a dozen times. To speed up this process, Noel uses tumble wheels, a product native to New Zealand that has allowed him to double the number of times he moves his animals.
This is the first year I've used them. It takes longer to get out here than it does to do the move, because you can move them in 30 seconds or less, because the cattle are trained to it.
So when you feed the stockpiled feed in the winter, how much do you think that that's going to save you in feed costs? Even for 2 weeks.
I've switched from round bales to square
Jen
bales,
Colby
but with
oversees
square
the
bales,
Pasture program for the University of Vermont Extension's Center for Sustainable Agriculture. She's helped facilitate workshops here so that other farmers can learn from Noel's innovative practices.
This farm is a classroom in many ways. So I think one of the important things to always go back to in pasture and grazing is that some of the real basics take about 5 minutes to learn, maybe 10, but really a lifetime to master. There's a reality check when a farmer is trying something and can say it worked or it didn't work and share those results with another farmer. Then it allows that other farmer to put it through their own decision-making filter and decide if that's going to work for them or not. And that's the part that the farmers really want, is can they take something that they can go back to their own farm and apply?
Maplewood Organic's website touts Noel as the Organic Mechanic. It's a title that sums up both the man and his mission.
I'm a tuner, tweaker. So once I get this system going, when I see I can make a little bit of a gain with just a little bit of adjustment, that's what I do. I just keep working on it, adjusting on it until eventually I'll get to my goal.
At Maplewood Organics, the cattle may only be a product of the farm, but they're right in step with Eric Noel's whole approach to farming. In Highgate, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.